Hello and welcome. You are watching QTV and you are watching the Week in Review. I'm Ade Darami, your host, and across the table I have friend and colleague co-host Mamadou Mboj. Mr. Mboj, once again, welcome to the program.
Once again, I'm glad to be here.
Thank you. And for anybody new or even not new to the program, I'll just run through quickly. It's called the Week in Review because we take 10 stories from the week just gone by that we think are interesting enough to have another go around. And we go through them in some detail. Some of them attract more of our attention and we deep dive into them than others. But nonetheless, we try and give, decent amount of time to each story. So what's on the menu? Well, the electoral starting gun was fired really from the 1st of January, one has to say. And since then, we've seen all sorts of maneuverings and alliances and coalitions. And the latest, the breakaway faction of the PPP, said they endorsed President Barrow, only to be rebutted by the others, who are the official PPP. Also, electoral matters, supplementary voter registration, a whopping 1,694 objections have been received. And so this time, the revising courts, we tend to look at this, will not be sitting idle as they've done in recent years. Also, the USA bond scheme. There was a kind of temporary bond scheme. They were testing it as a pilot, and now it's been solidified into a permanent one, and it affects 30 countries, including the Gambia. Have you got $20,000? That's what you'll have to deposit. Anyway, also here in the Gambia, they're trying to do faith-based messages on health, education and sanitation. Why? Well, it's for our own good and for our own health. And a moment of pride for Gambia and for a Gambian, Hassoum Ceesay, the DG of the National Centre for Arts and Culture, has been made a Fellow of the British Academy. Also closer to home, in our corner of West Africa, Guinea. They've become the first country, a matter of days after it was announced there had been unanimity, they become the first country to pull out of the ECO currency. Food matters. West African Food Festival, WAFEST, has never come to the Gambia, but this time it is. It'll be here in October, and we'll tell you what you can expect. Also, Children's National Assembly sat recently, and we heard calls for greater participation and inclusion by children in decisions that affect them. And the IOM have said that in spite of huge cuts in funding, they assisted 17.8 million people. And then finally, the Speaker of the National Assembly of Lesotho was here with a team of National Assembly members and had some interesting things to say about the Gambia's democracy and how the Gambia government is tapping into funds, particularly from the UNDP. So those are the stories. And so off and running with one of the big political stories. There have been several, but this one's a big one. PPP faction called at State House and said, we endorse His Excellency the President. I won't spoil it for you. Have a look, have a listen.
The race for State House is entering a new phase as political parties weigh their options ahead of the December 5th election. President Adama Barrow's Grand Alliance continues to attract new allies, while internal disputes within the opposition are altering the balance of the political contest. At the State House, a delegation from a breakaway faction of the People's Progressive Party, led by former party leader Keba Jallow, pledged its support for President Barrow's re-election campaign and promised to mobilize its support ahead of the vote. President Barrow welcomed the endorsement, describing it as a sign of growing political cooperation and a shared commitment to national development.
I've decided in full that we will support him and campaign for him to win the forthcoming elections. The reason because he has done so much for this country that we cannot just let it go like that. We have to support him so that his job can continue. My message is for all PPP members to support President Barrow's candidature for the forthcoming elections, and any meaningful Gambian who has seen the development in the country.
While Keba Jallow's faction had aligned itself with President Barrow, the party leadership under Usman Madike Fall, who is recorded as the party leader by the Independent Electoral Commission, had rejected the endorsement in a strongly worded statement insisting that the endorsement of President Barrow does not represent the PPP's official position.
Mr. Mboch, listeners and viewers, His Excellency the President described it as a sign of growing political cooperation. I think it's easy to also describe the same thing as a sign of growing political division. Because there we heard former head honcho at PPP taking some former executives, people who were voted out the last time. But they got a lot of traction. I mean, State House posted it on their page and, said that they had now been endorsed. But of course, we then had the rebuttal in very strong terms, even threatening legal action, Mr. Mboch.
Absolutely. It is the PPP, isn't it? If nothing else, but the symbolism.
The symbolism.
Because if you think, like, politically, how significant is it? Electorally, I'm not so sure, really, how many votes PPP today, and this is a faction, a breakaway faction. I'm not sure how many they can bring to the table. Apart from the symbolism. Then sort of, yes, when I read that, I thought, oh, just the other day it was GDC and NPP, the fanfare, extraordinary. But it was such an understated stuff. I thought, oh, how far
has PPP fallen?
Has PPP fallen now?
And I suspected, and myself and the chap who did the story, Usman Jatta, we had a discussion about this, and I said that I suspected that the fact that it wasn't the IEC registered arm of the PPP is probably why there wasn't the fanfare, because it would have looked a bit kind of naff, really, if they'd given it the same sort of fanfare as to GDC. The current leader was the one who went there, so there was no ambiguity about that. We knew who it was who was taking, his people there and saying, we're now throwing our weight behind President Barrow and the NPP. Yeah.
Absolutely, they should pay you for that brilliant advocacy. Granted, but right, oh come on, since sort of, what do I call it? The last election, the last presidential 2021, we've seen this, the breakaway.
Yes.
I think even NCP had a breakaway as well.
Well, that's right.
Yep, NCP is gone. Yes. APRC, no to alliance. Yeah. One can even say that with UDP, Unite is a breakaway.
Yeah, quite.
That sort of
thing. And kind of that was the sort of thrust of Usman Jatta's story, was that this was yet another symbol of the kind of horse trading and positioning that's happening, which is leading. And in fact, there's a bit where it talks about, former friends becoming foes because of the kind of, political realignment. And very much this is what we're seeing. As you said, of course, Unite is effectively, a breakaway from UDP. I mean, not just Tally, but a lot of people who left and said they were going to throw their weight behind him. So, yeah.
Yes, and former foes becoming friends. GDC and
yes, in fact, I forgot about that one.
That's it. So it's really in search of kind of electoral arithmetic, strategic alliances. Where do I see that my interest? Lies, as it were. So it's just a repositioning. That's why we're just seeing all these strange realignments.
Quite.
So, yes, 24 parties, as it were.
Possibly 27. Because another 3 apparently were waiting, according to the IEC, were waiting to be registered.
Absolutely. But we both know that really, in the end, you're going to have like maybe 3 serious, as it were, candidates in the end. So all the other parties will be joining these ones. So you have these magnetic, I call it, centers of power, and then you're going to have the satellites.
Well, indeed.
As it were. So that's what we're going to have in the end. Now, what? It was NPP and UDP. As it were, always. It's just a 2 dominant party, all the rest you have. So who would be the third force?
Yeah, quite.
Unite?
Could it be Unite? Could it be another?
Could it join, they join together? So how would things pan out? So I call it this, we are in the coalition or alliance season.
Yeah,
it's a season thing.
Yes.
Maybe it's a phrase, but that's it. And I think this time is so difficult in many ways because of the so-called lessons of 2021.
Well, indeed. Yes,
so
yes.
just unity on paper,
yeah.
it's not quite the same, especially when you win unity in power.
Yeah.
So therefore, they're being more detailed now.
Sure.
I think in
Well,
the agreements,
right.
to the extent that one person suggesting, or one coalition consortium suggesting that maybe this agreement should be legally binding.
Well,
so they're very mindful of what happened in 2021.
Learned the lessons, yes.
They've learned the lessons of that.
Yes, indeed. Thank you for that, Mr. Mboj. And it takes us nicely on to story number 2, because they are related. And this is to do with the supplementary voter registration. The IEC, Independent Electoral Commission, have said that this time, as of this week, they had received 1,694 objections. And they vary, they're not all the same. Anyway, this will tell you. Have a look and have a listen.
The Chief Justice has appointed revising court magistrates to hear these cases at the various administrative areas. The revising court magistrates will undergo an orientation process by the judiciary, after which court sittings will commence. The provisional voter register generated during the supplementary voter registration in 2026 will then be added onto the 2021 voter register. This will be done once the revising courts conclude.
Most of the objections relate to allegations that some registered voters are not Gambian citizens, while other concerns individuals whose names do not appear on the provisional voter registration list despite completing the registration process.
It was not only about the double registration. People registered multiple times, that's true. But the issue of edits, reprints, damaged cards, if you do the addition, it would tally. And I can assure you, as Vice Chairman of this Commission, that I would not be a party to anything that is untoward that would impact on the integrity and credibility of the voter register. I can tell you that. So we are very transparent, we are very open, and I want to reassure you that there is no hidden agenda.
No hidden agenda. In case people are wondering, that was in response to one political party raising the point that by their arithmetic, there was still a few hundred that were unaccounted for. But I think their arithmetic assumed that when they said double registration, they literally meant 2. We were told that there are instances where people had registered 4 and 5 times. And so it made it kind of difficult because all the political parties were handed a flash drive which had all the registered voters there. And that, of course, has led to some of the objections, Mr. Mboj. But a question for you, have you ever been to where the revising courts have been sitting?
No.
I think I will attend
this is an
time.
opportunity.
And for me too, because
1694 objections.
It is. And as we heard, as always, it's a case of this person is not a Gambian, they're not entitled. And so I'd love to see the accuser and the accused, if we can put it in those terms, how they came to the conclusion that this person was not entitled, and then for that person to defend themselves. But, you know, fascinating. Really.
That's it. Yeah, I think that question he answered. I mean, our story, we said UDP's Mamadou Sarr said that the number of given, the number of provisionally registered voters sort of different from what was previously given to them.
That's right.
So I think he was addressing well if
he was.
Remove
That's right.
So of the double voting.
That's right. Double registration.
Double registration, cancellations, and there are certain things that make the number tally. So this is the important thing. The integrity of how they took the supplementary register. That's one. And then objections, you're bound to have that once in a while. How that is handled in the court.
Well, indeed, yes.
So the institutional behavior, so the details, fine, there's something else. You know, they have got the rules and all of that.
That's right.
But the perceptions of institutional behavior, I think that will determines so much,
very much,
as it were. So for us, I think for me, that's really what I'm focused on.
Yeah.
How we perceive the IAC, how it did its work, and then the revising courts, what they're going to do. We understand that they've got 60 days, is it? That's it.
That's right.
The determination
from when they determine,
yes,
then the 60 days, you know, to kind of challenge it or whatever. Yeah. So of course,
absolutely. So that is the key, the integrity, I think, of this.
Well, this is it. So yeah, very much. And before, I don't think we've ever had the integrity of the revising courts called into question. We have heard some people from some of the political parties calling into question the integrity of the IEC. But I don't think anybody's kind of taken that seriously. They've never provided grounds to really seriously say that. But I think very much integrity is the thing that's at stake here.
It seems to be a kind of reflex.
Yeah.
That whatever institution decides, well, it decides, you're bound to have a faction or so that will say, oh, we disagree. So one expects that sort of behavior.
Sure.
But again, we try to stick to the facts.
Yes.
What is it that we know, as it were, for certain, that sort of thing.
Right.
And then we'll make our judgment.
Indeed.
But you will always have people who would do this or do that, believe this or believe that. That's the whole thing. So now we just, yes, you are right. I don't think we've ever had any complaints about the revising court.
No.
In fact, they never had many submissions.
Well, I was going to say in a couple of elections, they sat and nobody attended because we went there waiting and nobody turned up. Nobody had filed objections. They kind of did their objections online, but not in the kind of official way. But now they've done those objections through the official channels.
Then we can see that this is their first big test.
Well, indeed.
No experience.
Yeah, quite.
And then we have, I think we have now a new CJ.
Yeah, well, indeed.
So everybody will be watching.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. But its integrity will have the repercussions, potential.
Yeah, quite.
Absolutely. Whether we have a peaceful elections or not, these things will contribute.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Yes, I did say to somebody when they were talking along similar lines, I said, you realize that 1,694 is actually not a lot. But,
really?
but nonetheless, you know, the integrity is very much at stake.
Absolutely. And possibly maybe half of them can be dealt with quickly.
Well, yeah, indeed.
I'm sure you will probably have the complex
some that are
ones,
quite
complex.
Yeah.
But my suspicion is that, I don't know, 70–80% of them can be dealt with.
Yeah.
Quickly.
My suspicion too. Thank you for that, Mr. Mboj. And now my suspicion takes us abroad. The United States of America, I think ever since President Trump came into power for the second time, he's been very much a kind of anti-immigration person, and that's been a kind of flagship of his. And now they are tightening visa rules. How? Have a look, have a listen.
The policy, which came into effect today, 3rd August 2026, allows U.S. consular officers to require applicants for B1 business and B2 tourist visas from the selected countries to pay a refundable security deposit ranging from $10,000 to $20,000 before a visa is issued. The bond will be refunded if the visitor leaves the United States before the authorized stay expires and complies with all visa conditions. The program follows a one-year pilot launched in 2025 after U.S. authorities identified high visa overstay rates among travelers from selected countries. The U.S. State Department stressed that the bond requirement will not apply automatically to every applicant. Instead, consular officers will assess each case individually, considering travel history, previous immigration compliance, visa overstay rates, and other risk factors before deciding whether a bond is necessary. The policy currently applies only to temporary business and tourist visas and does not affect student, work, diplomatic, or permanent resident visas. While Washington argues the measure strengthens the integrity of its immigration system without preventing legitimate travel, immigration advocates say the high refundable deposits could discourage tourism, business travel, family visits, and investment, particularly for travelers from developing countries with limited financial resources.
I don't think Mr. Trump refers to them as developing countries at all. And it's quite ironic, Mr. Mboj. I'm sure there are some viewers out there thinking, hang on a minute, this is a country founded by overstayers. United States of America. Absolutely. And now they're kind of complaining about overstayers and putting these things between 10,000 and 20,000. Yes, it's refundable, but you have to stomp it up in the first place and deposit it. For many people, that's not realistic, is it?
At all. Just as you said, the overstayers, who was it that defined America as that vessel of immigration. It's really what it is. Yes, and I thought, oh my God, because of what happened recently at the Commonwealth Games in Scotland, a good number of the athletes stayed. I wonder,
2 from the Gambia.
2 from the Gambia, you see, that's it. I'm like, ooh, I'm sure sooner or later somebody will come up with the idea that when we host this international stuff, there will be a bond requirement for your athletes.
Oh no, Mr. Bush, don't give them ideas.
You know that.
I suspect.
That's because of what is going on. Sure. And we have to be honest. And we know the political dynamics of the societies these days.
Yes, exactly.
As a government, you don't take certain action, you lose your next election.
That's true. This is true.
See, that's why democracies are very, very difficult really to do. Democracy is difficult to do, really. So, yes, I think this sort of thing will come. I'm glad that it doesn't affect, I heard, student visas or work or permanent residency, those things.
That's right.
Just business, a certain category of business people
B1 and B2,
and tourists.
So vacation. You're going on 4 weeks holiday.
Yeah, that sort of thing.
As well as your air fare and your hotel fare, you have to pay, although you might be staying with family. You have to stump up between $10,000 and $20,000. It's not dollars, it's dollars. And then, you know, if you meet that, then, and of course, the thing is, this comes in the same week because 4 days after that, he then signed this to restrict birthright, which is always is enshrined very much as far as many Americans are concerned, which is around the fact that if you're born in America, you're an American. You know, so he's trying to restrict that, and now he's kind of putting categories and sort of tightening the definition. He just signed that on Saturday.
But wasn't there a ruling from the Supreme Court regarding that?
This is it.
So that will be a battle.
And now he signed this on Friday. He signed it on Friday, and now all the newspapers are saying, be prepared for another battle because he really can't.
He's going to go to the Supreme Court again. We all know that. It's just that for some of us in Africa, for instance, 30 African, I think worldwide there are what, 50? So we are what, 60% of
the ones affected.
Even 6 out of 10 Africans are sort of affected by this. So, but who would be surprised? We've been hearing Trump for a very, very long time. What did he refer to us as? It wouldn't be decent to say it on this air. But you know, when you are shameless, you can say anything on air.
You know,
so this is it.
And as you said, 30 countries and African countries, and also this is a kind of, there's a pattern to this because a lot of these countries, as we've said on other occasions and in another discussion, if you go for university, for example, you go to the UK, you come from the Gambia, you're paying 3 or 4 times what a UK student is paying. I mean, from poor Gambia and lots of these other countries, you're paying 3 or 4 times. And that's always been.
You know, with me, that's not a rumor.
Right, exactly.
Been victim of that,
that's
absolutely. So some of our arguments with, you know, our English friends, so that was it. We said, hey, look, calm down, man. I'm paying 3 times more than you do. So what I'm contributing to your economy, you're not in many ways. So, yes. And this is the thing, is this the worst relationship we've had with the West? No.
It's not the
so
worst.
I'm really not sure why I expect anything else.
Quite.
It's just very weird when we start judging moralistically and that sort of thing. What is pure geopolitical calculation? There's nothing else. And what else? So I just do not know. Let's get our house in order so that we'll reduce this dependency. This craving, this vision we have of the West,
obsession with
this obsession with the West. It's time we cloud it up a bit,
honestly,
as it were. So, what else to say about this? We'll just keep on saying, "Oh, Trump is bad. Trump is this. Trump is that." So what?
So what? He's the president, he can do what he wants. Thank you for that, Mr. Mboch. So what indeed. And story number 4 is very different. The Gambia Supreme Islamic Council and UNICEF called together people from different faiths for a 4-day national workshop, which I was really interested in because they wanted to engage religious leaders to promote key child welfare, health and sanitation practices nationwide. And as I said, something that I've been obsessed with, so I paid a lot of attention to this. I hope you will too. Have a look, have a listen.
The initiative brought together Islamic scholars, local religious leaders, and technical experts to develop culturally tailored and religiously grounded messages designed for dissemination through community platforms including mosques, churches, madrasas, and faith-based media nationwide. The goal is to address critical areas affecting child survival and development such as exclusive breastfeeding, routine immunization uptake, early birth registration, and school enrollment and retention rates. Additionally, guided by the belief that religious institutions play a pivotal role in shaping public attitudes, the gathering will target environmental sanitation by advocating against open defecation. By framing health and social awareness within faith-grounded principles, the workshop aims to effectively bridge information gaps and foster sustainable behavioral changes across communities in the Gambia.
We ensure that these vital practices are not seen as external policies, but as values deeply aligned with our religions.
It is not enough to come here, listen to the deliberations, to join in the activities, to join the workshops, but I think we should go out and be intentional to teach our followers.
Religious leaders have a particularly important role in making child rights a lived reality. Your voices can correct misinformation, challenge harmful norms, and encourage behaviors that protect and also nurture every child in the Gambia.
Mr. Mboch, as I said, this was something that I paid particular attention to because, you know, kind of child welfare, health and sanitation are kind of obsessions of mine. And we live in a kind of region where religious leaders do hold a lot of sway. People in the West probably don't realize this until they come, say, to Gambia or Sierra Leone. For example, on my way here, I heard a Sierra Leonean appealing to fellow Sierra Leoneans in the Gambia, saying that God had placed Mada Bio as their president, and so nobody should oppose him, they should all rally. It's sort of nonsense. But, you know, why shouldn't you oppose? But that's the kind of thing that you get. So if you are a Muslim, you go for the Jummah prayer, you will hear the khutbah, and sometimes they will use that for kind of social matters. And if you're a Christian, you go to church on Sunday, they'll use the sermon will, you know, sway from scripture into kind of dealing and addressing social matters. So I think very good, I thought, to engage religious leaders on these sorts of topics.
Absolutely. And you know, Adi, even over here, we heard some time back somebody saying that God had placed Barrow in power and that sort of thing.
I remember.
Then you can use the same logic. Well, God had placed Jammeh here. And the person who said that was fought against Jammeh, was part of the coalition to fight against Jammeh.
Right.
Why? If God had also placed Jammeh here, if that is how we judge these things.
Quite.
So why did you oppose Jammeh there, even though God had placed him there, using your own logic? And here you're saying that we should support this. When you apply logic to some of these things, they just
they crumble.
They crumble. They fall apart. I think this is a brilliant idea. Do you know how many times you'll hear outrageous views, but the people who advocate them will tell you, well, this is religiously grounded.
Yes, indeed. Yes.
So the corrective function that
is
the lady said there, I think that is just so important.
Yes,
so for some of us who do not know, when we get it from people like Imam Jah and others, I will know how to defend myself when I come against these loose cannons, hotheads. They are hotheads. They generate more heat than light. And then when you're a weak person or you don't have answers, you don't have anything to fall back on, maybe it's easier to do. It's a fantastic idea. And to solve social issues.
This is it. This is
fantastic.
It, you know.
Child development,
yep.
you know, immunize your kids. It's not against the religion. That's
stopping open defecation.
Stopping open
All of
defecation.
That was part of the thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because this problem, we must attack it from every angle.
Indeed.
Every angle whatsoever. And given that we profess, and that's the way I'm going to say it, we profess being Muslims, 90% or so, then you're surprised that this thing is only happening now.
Well, that was going to be my next one.
It should have been.
That was going to be my next one, because when I checked, they told me that this was the first. And Imam Osman Jam made the point that actually these things are, if you look at it, these are a religious obligation.
Absolutely.
And he said, so, you know, we're not telling you something that, you know, is kind of outside. And so don't think it's something that's imposed. No, these things, you should be doing them as a religious obligation.
It's just our ignorance.
Yeah,
things. And then you have these people who would misinform.
Yeah,
you see, I wouldn't call it disinform. I don't think they deliberately go out to deceive, to deceive people.
Distinction.
Absolutely. I don't think they do so. They just do not have accurate information, or their interpretation is naive, is wrong. There are all sorts of ways that we can get things wrong.
Indeed.
So it helps when we have this kind of voice, this authoritative voice, and then we can compare.
Yeah, indeed.
When you are giving the space to compare, then your intelligence kicks in.
Yeah. So I think we both agree this is an excellent initiative. Thank you for that, Mr. Mboj. It takes us to story number 5, which will also take us to the midway point in terms of stories at least, and after we'll go for a break, and after the break there'll be 5 more. But the one to take us up is one that both Mr. Mboj and I, we know this fellow, and now he's been elected a Fellow of the British Academy. Have a look, have a listen.
Recognized and elected as a Fellow of the Academy on the basis of his work as a cultural administrator, museum curator, researcher, writer and advocate for humanities and social sciences, this honor places Gambian historian Hassoum Ceesay among an elite group of non-UK scholars who have attained exceptional international standing.
I will use this, elevated, honor to really work on, promoting the study, and also the interpretation of history and culture. I think it's very, very important, because when a citizen has historical consciousness, then that citizen will also be able to have what you can call patriotic zealings.
Hassoum Ceesay, citing his impressive background and acknowledging the lack of historians in the Gambia, shared what he will be doing to push more young people to look into it as a Fellow of the Academy.
What I've told the young people, and they tell me that sometimes it's difficult to get scholarship to major in history. So I want to make a personal appeal for more scholarships for young Gambians to major in history at the bachelor's, master's and PhD level.
The sort of historian and historical kind of curation is where Hassoum and I first met, of course, and since then I've had nothing but maximum respect for him. The only thing I would kind of pick a point with is this thing about patriotic zeal. I'm not, I have to confess, a very good patriot. I've always felt an affinity with West Africa rather than Sierra Leone or anywhere else. My father was born in the Gambia. He had part of his relatives were from Guinea. My mother's people were originally from Abeokuta in Nigeria. Some were from Liberia. And so I've never felt, and people have heard me rant against these imposed borders. Nonetheless, the other stuff he said about thing is that my interaction with him came about because of kind of trying to preserve the history and encourage younger people, to get him involved. And I gave them, when I spoke to some of them, an example of, I said, people call me a bit of an anorak, because every day almost you'll see me on Facebook or some social media correcting things that people have put out, AI assisted, and they've thought, oh, this is fantastic history, and like, actually no. The thing, one of them, for example, just to divert, was to do with Colonel Bangura, They said that, he was executed because of his part in the 1967 coup against Shaka Stevens. Nothing of the sort. His coup was much later, 3 years later. But people were commenting on it. It just annoyed me. And so the history, there need to be people who study it properly and preserve it properly, because this is important. Otherwise, other people tell your story rather than yourself. Yeah.
He used the phrase historical consciousness.
Yeah, I like that.
And from what you've said, you've seen how you had to rectify things. And without historical consciousness, there is no understanding.
This is it.
Of my situation today.
Yeah,
what do I have? Who was it that gave us the image that with human beings, we've got our faces facing the back and our back head facing the front. All we have is just history. On the basis of history, then we make projections. And the person said, and then we are blown into the future by the force of progress. It's an extraordinary thing. So if you do not know history, you don't really understand.
Yeah.
But Hassoum is something else. It is the dedication.
Yes.
It's extraordinary. The publication. He's a scholar.
Very much.
He is what you call a scholar.
Absolutely.
Exclusively devoted, as it were, to history and heritage and that sort of thing. Consistently published in reputable publications.
Yes.
Oxford University Press
That's right.
and others.
Yeah.
UNESCO.
Go ahead.
Very much involved in UNESCO work. So this is really no less than what he deserved.
Absolutely.
He's constantly been a champion of the humanities in this country.
Indeed.
Humanities and social sciences.
Indeed, yes.
Today, when we think of historians to interview when we have a story, immediately Hassoum Ceesay.
First
then we
name
say,
that comes to mind.
Can we have all the people to emerge and come and help this man in this lonely field?
He can't be everywhere.
He can't be everywhere.
Yeah.
There are others, of course, but the way he was always willing to engage with the media.
This is it.
See, this is what others can learn from that. Because, for instance, with a journalist, yes, I like history and that sort of thing. You studied history, but I am not an historian.
Go on.
You know what I mean? I'm just a middleman. This is really what our job is. We listen to what intellectuals, researchers, and all the rest of it, what they're saying. We try to break it down, as it were, for the so-called ordinary, average listener or viewer. So we recognize, we appreciate these people. How many people are here? So-called intellectuals and experts and all of this. How many times would you call them to interview them? They wouldn't come.
We've been disappointed many times.
It's extremely disappointing. So the role of the public intellectual. This is
something
something we are used to living in Britain.
Quite.
Absolutely. You need to have that for the sake of our civilization. That's really what it is. Yes. You need to know what intellectuals, what research is saying. Then we assimilate in our cultural worldview. This is where it is good for civilization. But with the people who just depend on, this is our customs, this is our traditions. My grandfather or my whatever did that how many centuries ago. Oh, please, you are not being authentic. You are dead as a civilization.
That's a great point to end on. Thank you. They always say that we have interesting stories, both in the first and the second half of the program. And this is no different because in Guinea, they decided that after all the grand announcements from ECOWAS about the ECHO, that they had a change of mind. What was that change of mind all about? This video will tell you. Have a look, have a listen.
Guinea's decision to stay out of the ECHO marks a significant setback for ECOWAS's long-standing goal of establishing a common currency to strengthen regional trade, economic cooperation, and financial stability. Guinean authorities argue that adopting the ECHO will limit the country's ability to independently manage its monetary policy at a time when its economy is driven largely by exports to Asian markets. Nearly 80% of Guinea's exports, including bauxite and gold, are destined for Asia, making its economic priorities different from many of its West African neighbors. The ECHO has been under discussion for over 2 decades, but has faced repeated delays due to disagreements over economic convergence, including inflation, debt, and fiscal discipline. Concerns over the continued use of the CFA franc in some ECOWAS countries have also slowed progress. Guinea's withdrawal raises fresh doubts about the future of the ECO. Analysts warn that if more ECOWAS members opt out, the bloc's goal of a fully integrated regional market could be at risk.
Mr. Mboj, what's going on here?
Well, what reason have they given? They wanted control over interest rates, exchange rates, and all of that. That's it. Well, I remember exactly the debate. Extraordinary, the echo, as it were. No pun intended here.
Quite.
Absolutely. And these are the considerations that countries will take into account before they agree to any project like this. That 80% of their export, bauxite, gold, whatever, to Asia. Absolutely.
China and India, mainly.
That's it. So when you have economic shocks, for instance, we were hearing this debate, you need to have much more control over the interest rates and the exchange rate, that sort of thing. But once you surrender that, but that gives me hope in many ways, because all the countries that have formed this economic union, this monetary union, they've all had to face that sort of thing.
Well, I was going to say, because before we came on, when I watched the video again, I just didn't, because I was involved in other things, I didn't have time to check for the other countries in the region to see what percentage of their exports also went to Asia. I suspect none of them are as high as 80%, but there might be some that is about 60%. And if you take, they're no longer ECOWAS members, but Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso, they're probably even more than 80%. So they're not in the argument, as it were. But I suspect if a country says, they pull out because they're 80%, we're 70%, perhaps we should pull out as well. And for me, that was so I was trying to get the figures, but I wasn't able to get them in time.
No, I get what you mean. You need to go deeper into it, because this point now, either other countries will go the way of Guinea, or they could come up with a sort of accommodative mechanism that would bring Guinea back. So we are at a crossroads in this sense, really, because the withdrawal of Guinea would undermine
because it's such a big
the larger project
potentially
because of everything. And the benefits, you all know, cross-border trade and that sort of thing. It would be fantastic. But again, before you reach there, just as when we look at other monetary unions, as it were, it took a long time to negotiate. So I'm not necessarily gloomy.
No, neither am I.
I think it's part of negotiations when you look at nations over time. At one point you'll say no. Things do change. As we said, enemies can become friends, and friends can become enemies. So circumstances can change. So now maybe the question for us is, would ECOWAS continue along the roadmap they have, or would they be more flexible now to accommodate the differences in their economies and see how they can change tact?
Because that was a similar argument that was used in Europe before the countries that all adopted the euro did so.
Absolutely.
The countries that felt that there were various special circumstances, they said, we'll give you timeline, we'll be flexible, and then you can kind of gently work your way into when you fully, and of course most of them eventually did exactly that.
That's the genius.
Fine.
How do you adapt sort of to new argument, changing circumstances, that sort of thing. The danger is standing your ground. No, we're not going to move. This is the law.
Quite.
No, that's the enemy.
If
you like, of forming these sort of union.
Indeed.
You know, these collaborations. That's the enemy of it. So this will test their genius. I have to put it that way.
In persuasion.
In persuasion, forming alliances, that ability to negotiate and come with the right solution that will get you over the issue you have. So having that imagination, these things, they all matter in negotiation. You know, the genius, I call it. Absolutely.
So we wait and see what next moves are for the rest of the countries. Thank you for that, Mr. Mboj. And so we've dealt with the matter of the ECO and Guinea's withdrawal. And our next story, we stay still in West Africa. And it's a very different story. For those of you who like your food, you'll be licking your lips. Why? Because the West Africa Food Festival is coming to the Gambia for the very first time. Have a look at this video and you'll find all about it.
The event is expected to attract top culinary talent from more than 35 countries, alongside government representatives, development partners, diplomatic missions, investors, tourism stakeholders, and food enthusiasts.
This means a lot to us, meaning an opportunity for us to network, an opportunity for us to raise the awareness of our heritage culture, our food, our tradition, and to market our destination Gambia through this event.
We are pledging, in addition to providing, that is the technical support and backup that we'll be giving, on behalf of the Institute GTHI, I want to pledge a cash donation of $50,000.
We also had pledges from NCAC, ITC, and Yaboy Home Cooking.
We will contribute financially and also be rest assured that our spaces and cultural groups will be at the disposal of the organizing committee.
We are pledging, and that is in addition to the $10,000 we already paid for the branding and marketing. We are pledging $35,000.
We're going to invite all the chefs for a day at the Yaboy Home Cooking.
Doubtless, a key feature of this, as with every West African food fest, will be the matter of who makes the best jollof rice.
I mean, that's the important thing, isn't it, Mr. Mboj, West African Food Festival? You can't have one without that argument, who makes the best jollof rice. So we had to have that in the story. But this really is a big festival, because if anybody knows their maths very well, there are 35 countries, probably 36 or 37. And of course, there are more than 35, 36 or 37 countries in West Africa. And so it's quite a big one. And they're all going to descend on Gambia for the first time in October. And yeah, we're looking forward to it. We've covered it in the past when it's held in Ghana and Nigeria and so on, but first time ever it's come to the Gambia.
Absolutely. Fantastic. So we'll be in this sort of culinary map.
Well, that's the
at least for a while. It doesn't matter. You just never know what can grow, as it were, from that sort of thing. I'm afraid that with the jollof rice thing, I'm not sure whether Gambians will care that much.
Right.
When I was younger, I used to think so. I thought that Benachin, that's what we call Benachin, really. Benachin was our national dish.
Yes.
Not quite so. Possibly the national dish of Senegal.
Yes, quite.
But we are quite different in some ways. Maybe
so is it
according to Banjul.
Right.
Because now people talk about Yassa.
Yassa, okay.
Even when we spoke to Sheriff Bojang, and Bojang said to me, because apparently there was some link with the former monarch of Britain, Elizabeth II. And according to Sheriff, Mr. Bojang there, Chef Bojang, he cooked Yassa for the Queen.
Well, indeed.
So maybe, I'm not sure we will care much about the jollof rice bit.
Yeah, quite.
But fantastic, they're hearing all these pledges. You want it to go well. You want to provide sort of a nice environment, ambience for people who come over.
And to be honest, we also have a kind of ulterior motive, because we will use it to kind of showcase Gambian cuisine to a huge audience, because you think of the kind of Nigerian broadcasters and the Ghanaian ones who've covered the ones in the past, the ones from Cote d'Ivoire and Senegal and so on. They've all covered the previous WAFest, and so their eyes will all be on the Gambia. So this will be a time for us to put our Yassa, Benachin, Domoda, whatever, in the shop window, really, as a kind of culinary.
Who knows what opportunities, what partnerships, what can grow from this. And yes, maybe there's a good shout for Domoda to be a national dish, not least because, well, we are known as the peanut country.
Which is why I suggested Domoda.
That sort of thing. So that would be a fantastic idea. But for some of us, I said, I'm not really a foodie.
Right.
I just don't care about that. But I was thinking, this is an opportunity to be I'll be trying so many different samples from all over the world, 35 countries.
I will definitely be visiting.
So stuff like that.
Sure.
So this is an opportunity for me to come on. Be more cultured. Don't be a Philistine when it comes to gastronomy.
Indeed. And I think that should apply to all our viewers. Thank you for that, Mr. Mboj. Thank you. And now to a very, very different story. Story number 8. The Children's National Assembly recently held their second national sitting, and we were there, and it was very interesting. Some of the things we heard, not a surprise, and they probably not be a surprise to you. Have a look, have a listen.
The second yearly extraordinary sitting was held under the theme Investment, Accountability and Participation for Every Child. Binta Fatajo, representing the North Bank region, moved the motion on the theme, drawing attention to the need for greater investment in children and stronger accountability in the implementation of policies and programs designed for their benefit. The representatives called for greater recognition of children's voices and meaningful participation in the development of policies and programs, emphasizing that children should not only be beneficiaries of development but active participants in shaping it.
Before anything else, we should celebrate what this gathering represents. The Gambia stands out in our region for creating and sustaining a national platform where children can speak freely about issues that are affecting their lives, and where senior duty bearers, including honorable ministers, are ready to listen, respond, and act. This is a culture of child participation worth celebrating, protecting, and strengthening.
Mr. Mboj, I'm sure a viewer or two will correct me, but as ever, whenever we do these shows, you and I do some research before we come into the studio. And Nafisa bin Shafiq, what she was saying there, made me think, okay, let me check other countries in the sub-region, whether they have something similar. And I think Gambia, we sometimes downplay some of the innovations that we have here until you realize that it's a good idea and not many other people have it. And that's the case with this.
Apparently, the very first time, 2003.
Go on.
When we suggested this kind of idea. So this is it right now. We are governing. We are sort of negotiating who's going to govern us.
Go on.
And it is interesting there, one wonders whether we are listening to the people who will be affected, really, in the long run.
Well, indeed.
Of the consequences of today's decisions.
Well, indeed.
It's quite fascinating. But Zimbabwe, they've had this in 2024. They had their 32nd.
Right. Yes, I couldn't find any in West Africa.
Absolutely, child parliament stuff. Go to Zambia.
Right.
In 2024, they got 80 kids, as it were, to participate in parliamentary sessions on the 2024 budget, on the educational needs, whether what was allocated would be enough for their educational needs. So yes, this is now a global trend.
Indeed.
All over the place.
I'm surprised that, as I said, I couldn't find any ECOWAS country other than the Gambia.
Well, you had to go all the way to Zambia and Zimbabwe to get stuff like that. So, yes, and even with the parliament, how you simulate legislative proceedings. So it's like an apprenticeship.
Indeed.
As it were. So I think it's not a bad idea at all. Just depends on how we use it. After they sit on the recommendations or whatever, how do the real parliamentarians and the executive, how do they engage with this idea?
And of course, some of them are in attendance, of course.
Absolutely, when they come and give you these ideas. This is where experience can engage with youth, and we tell you why maybe what you want ABC cannot be done the way you want us to do it, but we'll give you a good idea of how we can adapt it to reality. So that discussion between youth and experience, I think this is an opportunity for that.
Wonderful opportunity. Thank you for that. And I'll go and now delve into the Zambia and Zimbabwe ones because, as I said, I couldn't find any in ECOWAS. But thank you for that. Our penultimate story. International Organization for Migration, IOM, recently published a really, really interesting report, and if people have time, I urge you, it's long, but it's worth reading, that they assisted 17.8 million people in 170 countries and territories in 2025. Why does this matter? Well, this is at a time when funding is being withdrawn from all sorts of things, including these sorts of interventions. Anyway, have a look and have a listen.
The International Organization for Migration has announced that it provided humanitarian and recovery assistance to 17.8 million people worldwide in 2025, even as humanitarian funding declined sharply amid rising global crisis. According to the organization's 2025 Operating in Crisis report, more than 300 million people required humanitarian assistance during the year as conflicts, natural disasters, disease outbreaks, and displacement drove humanitarian needs to record levels. IOM described 2025 as a year of extraordinary pressure for the humanitarian system. Conflicts, disasters, disease outbreaks, and displacement pushed humanitarian needs to unprecedented levels, while available resources contracted dramatically. Beyond direct humanitarian assistance, IOM continued to play a critical role in supporting the wider humanitarian response through its displacement tracking metrics, the world's largest operational source of displacement data.
Mr. Mboj, as the funding contracted, conflicts, disasters, and displacements increased. It's quite ironic, isn't it, that at a time when they should be getting more funding, they're actually getting less.
Absolutely, Eddie. Their story is $17.8 million, covering 70 countries, right?
Yes, correct.
Now let's look at the IOM 2025 Global Appeal estimates.
So 17.8 million people.
17.8 million people, that's it,
sorry,
over 170, whatever.
Yes.
But the money they had here, the 2025 Global Appeal estimated that they needed 8.2 billion to reach 101 million. Can you see what's going on there?
This is it.
This is the key now. The scale of global displacement, because of all sorts of reasons, our reports they are listed all the reasons. It's huge. And the humanitarian money we need for humanitarian help, relief, is dwindling, shrinking. So the question becomes, our current system, is it sustainable given these realities? Would this force the IOM to adapt? You see? Reduce what it can do, as it were. Just as with the Commonwealth, it have to be slimmed down because of certain realities. Would it force these international agencies to reduce, to narrow down their focus in what they do?
That's a salutary question indeed. Thank you for that, Mr. Mboj. Our final story, before the producer yanks our microphones or switches us off, takes us to back here in the Gambia and to a visit by the Lesotho National Assembly Speaker and a delegation from Lesotho's National Assembly. What did he have to say? Here's almost his full statement.
We are here on a mission organized jointly by the governments of the Gambia and the UNDP, and also the government of Lesotho. The point being that the Gambia has made big strides in its partnering with the UNDP in terms of the government development finance. So we came here to come and learn from the Gambia to see how we can also use the same kind of partnership for the development of our people in Lesotho, in the same way that the people of Gambia are beginning to gain dividends from this program, which is championed by the president himself. And I wanted to come here and to thank him for leading that program with the vision and passion that he's doing. And that is exactly what I said to him.
In case any viewers are wondering what or where is Lesotho, it's Southern Africa's Gambia. It's completely surrounded by South Africa. You know, so, you know, that of course determines many things, but it's quite interesting that they have reached out because of how successful the Gambian government has been in tapping into UNDP help and funding.
What a scalp in many ways for President Barrow and the NPP.
Absolutely.
Look at this country, sort of located on the opposite end of the continent. So they've been studying what we've been doing, but we are remarkably similar in many ways. What's our population? 2.8, about 2.3. GDP for us 2.59 billion, with them 2.57. That sort of thing. Whilst we are not completely surrounded by Senegal, very similar. With them, they're entirely surrounded by South Africa. So it's quite extraordinary, you know, so far apart, yet quite similar in some ways. Absolutely. South-South cooperation. What can one say? Do you expect me to go and have a debate with him? I'm sure opposition members would like to do that. Oh, no, you cannot say this. But what a scout for Barrow and NPP. What else can I say?
Massive one. Yes, indeed. I think, as you say, some stories take up more of our time than others. This one didn't take much of our time. Thank you, Mr. Mboj. Just please for me to say thank you for your interjections. And of course, for you, to you, the viewers, thank you for being with us. And we hope you've enjoyed the program. And until we come your way again next week, goodbye.